Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley for Farming Sim 15. We are in the middle of picking up rocks. We just delivered a load of them to the local bale handler who must also have a penchant for rocks. I don't know. He takes them, so we deliver it to him. So we'll return to the field. I think we need to go to one of our new fields. Maybe we'll sneak on through here. I think we can get there by going down this way. I can keep from... Oh, this just slow. Nope, I shouldn't have gone that way. I should have just stayed on the road where I was, but that's alright. We'll get back there soon enough. Heading up to 22. Just one of our newer fields. Head on over this bridge. Pick up the larger rocks in there. Not sure what those signs mean. Maybe someone that's overseas can tell me what the sign with the slash means. Does that just mean there's a bridge or something? I really am not familiar with that kind of a sign. Right or left control R, I think, picks up rocks. So where all do we have them in this field? Any back behind there? I don't think so. So we'll just march over to that one right here. Get him in. March across the field. I would have thought this one would have been tiny enough that it would have, hey, get in the trailer. I would have thought he was tiny enough he would have squashed under the roller, but I guess it had other plans. Most of these are largish rocks. You know, I'd be curious if anybody's ever used this mod, the rocks. I know it doesn't appeal to everyone. There's a good lot of the time I don't waste any time with it either, because it's just one more thing to do, if you will, if you're in a hurry to plant crops. I think I had one fella tell me one time he saw all the rocks he ever wanted to see on the farm growing up, and he never wanted to see a rock again. So each to their own, for sure. Let me turn it off while I'm in transit, and we'll head down over here to 19. I think there's one right in the corner. We'll zip on down there to grab it. Well, in the last video, I think I mentioned, or we were talking about unexpected things that happen to you in life. I kind of mentioned some of the reason that I'm recording a couple of videos tonight is, oh, I wouldn't call it stress or anything like that. But it just seemed like something I wanted to do after getting a call from my daughter that her husband's grandparents had, just passed away in a car wreck on a vacation they were on. So at least they were, on a vacation. So presumably, oop, oh, I didn't turn it back on. Control R. There we go. I think there's just one rock in here. We'll turn it back off. And now we'll head downhill. That almost looked like a rock in there. I suppose there's never any good time to die. It's always inconvenient. And even though we all know we're gonna die someday, maybe at a certain level it always seems unexpected. I know my business partner, One of them, his father passed away this past week. I think it was either Sunday or Monday, kind of late at night. Maybe it was Sunday. Have a cousin of mine, great uncle, his father passed away. Now this, with my son-in-law. So I don't mean to be melancholy with that. It is what it is, and I know one day it's going to be my turn, whether to deal with my own parents, although there's no guarantee of that. And it's interesting, we don't often think about it, but I don't care who you are, when you get married to someone special, presumably, one of you is likely going to pass before the other, unless you have something like this couple here, my son-in-law's grandparents, who both died at the same time. That's, I don't know how common that is. There's probably statistics on that. It's just something we're all going to have to deal with, and sometimes it may be unexpected. So I know last video I asked people to share if they wanted to. Who knows? Who knows if this thing will ever air? The unexpected things that happen to them in life, whether positive or negative. Hopefully there's more positive than negative, but I mean the negative ones tend to be what we remember maybe most. So I'm just thinking back again in my own life. I know everybody's going to have situations that maybe nobody else understands, but then, did I come in here for nothing? I think I did come in here for nothing. Silly. Alright. Let me head on back out of here. That's weird. Some of these fields it didn't put any big rocks in. I know we had some rocks in there. Yeah, look at that now, and it doesn't have any. So where does that leave us? Now, if we've gone around the circuit, we have, that leaves field 8, 37, and 38. All right. Just kind of by habit, I guess I'd go over there just to make sure all of our fields are covered. So we're getting this done. Maybe this episode will get the rock picking racked up. Except I gotta take one more nasty trip up that hill to deliver the rocks. I think in the last video I mentioned having to take my son to the hospital. Actually, I didn't have to take him. He was transported up there, medical transport. My oldest daughter she in 3 different hospitals? That little tyke. She had something that I think to this day, when I think on it too hard, maybe some would call it PTSD. I don't know. Never been through something like it before or since. But she had a seizure disorder. Here, let me turn this on. Is anybody listening to this? I mean, have you ever had to deal with seizures before? With a family member or a child? It's really strange, where they are unable to respond to you in any fashion, and they're just shaking all over, and you can't do anything about it other than help them. Maybe you're not supposed to, well, I'm not sure what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to try to stop them from doing anything, but you are to try to help them keep from hurting themselves. And those both were very unexpected events. She had a febrile seizure, I think they call it, when she was maybe 2 years old. It's the first time I think I've ever dialed 911. I'm not sure what the number is in other countries, but I know in America it's for emergency services you dial 911. She, we had, what was the deal? I almost think my wife, it was on a Sunday, I think, when it happened. Maybe my wife stayed home from church at the day. It could be our daughter was sick, and maybe I went and came home. It was early afternoon or something. Is when we lived in town, and all of a sudden, I think I was changing out of my clothes or whatever, and all of a sudden, while I was doing that, I heard some weird sounds coming from our daughter's room. It sounded like she was choking, and initially, that's what I thought it was. I mean, I knew about seizures, but I had never witnessed one firsthand. And so when I remember just rushing in there, and she was convulsing. Oop, I dropped a rock. Kind of foaming at the mouth a little bit, if I remember correctly. And I thought she was choking on something. That's kind of what it sounded like. And you know, I'm a man, unobservant maybe most of the time, or what would be said that. You know those times where it's like you have a sixth sense that when you hear something just out of whack a little bit, that you immediately know that there's something seriously wrong. Maybe some guys have a sixth sense, when they're running a machine and they listen to the machine and they know it so well that they can hear so much as when a bearing is about ready to go out. I'm not that person. I mean, I can listen pretty well on a machine and be able to tell when some things are wrong, but I'm not that good. But this was just it was just an uncharacteristic noise, and she was supposed to be sleeping over there. At least we thought she was. And I don't know, there's just something about it. It wasn't loud and noisy, but it's just one of those things that just reaches inside you and just grabs you uh, by the whatever. And so, I mean, I just remember running over there. We didn't have a very big house, um, but very definitely something was wrong. And I think on the way over, to her room, I yelled at my wife to come over there, and so she joined me over there, and for a little bit, I mean, I remember, because I didn't know what was going on. Here, get in there, Roberts. Let me turn this off. I think I've picked them all up. Yeah. Maybe we'll sneak down around this edge. Make sure. Yep, nothing but the weeds. Alright. Back up the hill we go on the other side of the valley. Sheesh. But I remember hollering at her, and she came over there. I was squeezing our daughter's tummy. We probably have all learned the Heimlich maneuver. It's like, I just wondered, well, what in the world did she swallow that could be jammed in there? But I didn't know. And like I say, she was already kind of foaming at the mouth. She was totally unresponsive. So we called 911, and I think at some point they figured out what was going on, which is just amazing, because they couldn't see her or whatever. But I think eventually my wife, who's a nurse, picked up on the fact that they were trying to tell us that she was having a seizure. So they ended up sending paramedics, ambulance, everything to our home. And eventually she snapped out of it, and I mean, these people are so fast. We lived there in town, and it seemed like I had no sooner hung up on the phone from the 911 operator, and someone was beating on the door, to come in, and the paramedics were already there. So they looked her over, and by then I think she was no longer seizing, if you will. So but she was as limp as a dish rag. I mean, just very, very limp. Um, Actually, let me head up this way. We'll go this back way up to the veil. Just exhausted as if wiped out. And so they ended up not taking her to the hospital. Um, I can't remember how all that was. We eventually had we took her to the doctor, and that's when we learned it's a febrile seizure. Apparently, she overheated somehow, and so if it happened again, we were given some advice, what to do. But when it doesn't happen every day, you kind of get lulled to sleep, and so when it does happen again, which it did, you don't know what to do that time either. It came just as much of a surprise and shock as the first time. And the second time for her happened when she was, I think, 4 years old, still just a little chirp. Um, and obviously, the first time she wasn't able to communicate much at all, um, just being 2 years old. The next time, she was still hardly able to do it. And that's the time that, like I say, whenever I think of it, it practically gives me PTSD. I know I'm not the only parent that's ever had to deal with health issues or be scared for their children with something that's going on in their life, and maybe some of this is easy compared to, what some others have had to go through. This time, we were in another home, this time our country home, if you will. We had moved out to the country, and oh, look at that, there's a plane up there. Cool. So we moved out here, so we were a little further away from emergency services, but we were told she would have kind of or we weren't told. It was after this next time that we learned she had a regular seizure disorder. But the first time was kind of luck of the draw, if you will. I mean, I remember a cousin that I had who had a febrile seizure, and it was the only one she's ever had, and then she went away, and has never had one since. So they thought, well, maybe that's what happened to our daughter, and it turns out it was more than that. So it was one night I was home alone with the kids, and I think I put her to bed. I put all of them to bed, and I guess at that time, yeah, there had only been two of the kids. So put her to bed, and I remember that night she was particularly cranky. At 4 years old, she called me multiple times from her bed, and frankly, I was starting to get pretty irritated. Um, and I'm sure I probably didn't treat her. I probably didn't talk to her as kindly as what I should have, or been as patient with her as I should have, all of which I just felt horrible about later. There's nothing I don't think slams a parent as hard as when, maybe you've been a little short with one of your kids, and then you realize there's maybe a reason why they're behaving the way they are, and they're really in trouble, and you didn't even know it. And so all of a sudden, like I say, multiple times she had called me out of there. She let out a shriek, and to this day, I don't think I've ever heard a scream quite like this. It was just different, kind of like I just described. It's one of those sounds that just bolts you out, and hey, something is wrong here. This is not normal. This isn't a normal way to, I mean, it erased my irritation and anger and replaced it with, well, fear, if I'm brutally honest. And so I remember charging back to her room, and she was sitting upright in bed, and it's like, sweetie, what's wrong? And she had vomited all over the bed, just made a royal mess. And she said something like, I made a mess, you know, and so it's like, okay, sweetie. So, I got her up, pulled the blankets off the bed, all that stuff. Well, I started giving her some instruction. It's because it was so late at the time, I figured I wouldn't make the bed till morning. We took all the sheets off or whatever that she had thrown up on. And so I said, sweetie, go get your sleeping bag. And so I wasn't even paying attention. I was busy at the moment, taking care of. Did I refill? There we go. Taking care of her dirty sheets or whatever. Well, she went down the hall and she wandered up and down the hallway, and she never did retrieve the uh, the sleeping bag. So maybe I need to interrupt my story here. Why am I juddering? Oh my goodness. Horse plays doing something it doesn't look like. Okay, I'm at the point of planting, folks. And also the middle of my story. Let me see here. What do I want to plant? I think this is what I rented last time. So maybe 4 hours to cover my fields. Alright, so I'm going to head up to the dealership and go fetch it. Meanwhile, Course Play is doing all kinds of havoc on triggers. I don't know what it's doing. So anyway, what I didn't know at the time, when I was asking her to go get her sleeping bag, to bring it into the room, she was starting to not respond. And, at one point in the air, I think she threw up again. This was out in the hallway, I think. So I took her into the restroom. Um, I think she had to go to the bathroom, so she sat up there, and I kept trying to talk to her. This is when it started settling in that she wasn't responding at all. I tried to say her name, and just looking, the look when you look in someone's eyes, and it's like they're looking right through you or looking past you. She didn't say anything, and eventually she couldn't even hold herself upright. And by then, I was really getting scared, I gotta say, because even though we'd had a seizure with her before, it's like I didn't recognize what it was. And about then, my wife got home. She was gone for the evening. I don't remember where. So, talk about a welcome home present, and immediately thrusting her into this. Well, by then, I think I had carried my daughter out, and she started seizing again, and it was just awful. I hope that's something nobody ever has to go through, watching your little one and just feeling powerless, not able to do anything about it. And she was on the floor. I still remember when she was lying, and, she threw up again, and we called the paramedics, the ambulance. They came out, and this time she seized so hard. She wasn't breathing. She was totally unresponsive. And so took her to the hospital emergency room where they were working on her. Um, and just, it was a long time before she responded again. I think the only way they could get her out of seizing, and I don't know, I'm not a medical person, so for all I know, I'm not explaining this properly or whatever, but at least my recollection is the only way they could get her to quit seizing was to put her in an induced coma. I think I'm saying that right. Basically, to take her under. And they took her under so far, she couldn't breathe on her own. I think when they knock you out, there's like varying levels of being knocked out. And if they take you far enough, certain muscles aren't going to work. You know, maybe one of them being your ability to breathe. So they intubated her. There was a machine to breathe for her, but finally they got her to stop seizing. And the doctors and everything in there, they still didn't know kind of what was going on. You know, to tell some young, very scared parents, you know, what was going on. You know, but one doctor said maybe she got into poison at home or something, or ate something she shouldn't have. You know, did we have any soap or detergent or pesticide or something in the house? And well, yeah, we got soap and stuff, but no spray or chemical or anything like that in the house. Um, so we were wrestling with all that, and the hospital that we took her to wasn't able to handle her at that point, so they uh, they sent us north to a larger hospital up in Portland. And you know, when stuff like this happens, kind of as I was beginning this, it's the unexpected things that just land in your lap. I have no idea what I was doing at that moment, you know, like at work. I tend to do a lot of project-based work, you know, with defined due dates and all that. Well, obviously that all goes out the window, you know, when you're dealing with this. Uh, so looking back, I don't even know how I got through all that. Um, but suffice it to say, my wife and I spent several days at a hospital in Portland with this, and you know, just being there with our daughter until she came back out of her coma. And wow, was she a mad little girl when she finally woke up. Uh, one of the doctors told us she was going to be pretty ticked off, and you know, I guess that makes sense. If I were to pass out right here, right now, and then come to several days later, a week or something in the future, and be in a strange place that I didn't take myself to, and have all these things, people poking me, all these hoses stuck to me, all this tape on me, I would probably freak out too. And I would have the benefit of being able to communicate. You know, here this was just a 4-year-old little chirp, and so she was very irritated when she woke up. She was never more challenging to deal with, I think, than at that moment. But even though she was mad as a hornet, I was there when she woke up. You know, the nurses got her all disconnected from the equipment, and then they disappeared while I dealt with a very mad little girl. But was very happy to see her, obviously. Now, how do I change? Is it? I gotta figure out how to change a different seed. Select seeds. Oh, oh, there's wheat. Oh, you know what's going on. All right, let me. That's what's going on. Now I can see what I'm toggling to. Barley. Someone told me I'd be better off planting barley. Well, maybe so. Barley, I think, is worth a little bit more if we look at this map in here versus the wheat. It seems like it's consistently a little bit more. Of course, that is until I start growing it. Oh, there it is, up at Pheasant Pluckers. Yeah, that's quite a bit more. Canola, I tried canola the first season. I know that that's worth quite a bit more, especially up at the bio oil place. So maybe I'll put in some canola too. I don't know. I don't know what to do to salvage this farm. I'll just try to get planting. Looks like I got some barley in there. So we'll put in some barley. Maybe isn't the best crop rotation to put barley over the top of wheat, but I don't know. It'll work fine. Well, this is exciting to me. Get to put in the next crop. Here we go. you meet lots of interesting people too when you have one of those health emergencies, if you will, and have to go through the hospital. And both my wife and oldest daughter, the one that had the seizure, they're both nurses, so they know the drill. They know the kind of people that they work with in there, and there's people of all stripes. And just like in any other occupation, you're going to have some people who excel at their job. You're going to have other people who are only there for the pay. I don't care if they're a doctor. Same could be true of them. And so I know when our daughter was up there meeting some of the people, some of them I wanted to give them a knuckle sandwich for some of the things they said. Others were gold. Um, I, I think if I'd had a chunk of gold, I would have handed it to them for how kind they were and how they treated the daughter. I guess they call that a bedside manner. Well, yeah, it's pretty important, especially when you're dealing with some emergency, and if you don't know you're going to be able to take your little one home. When you're dealing with the unexpected. So, well, hopefully I won't dwell on that too much. There's a number of other details maybe about it I could share, but I think I'll leave that off. Like I say, I tend not to think about that. I guess, whenever there's something unexpected in life, at least some of the things where it affects me, and maybe this is PTSD, is you look back on it and replay it in your mind, and for me, it's like all the what ifs, come out. And it's just almost like a torment. But what if this, what if that, and I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it's best to just leave the past alone. What happened happened, and you just need to keep moving forward, because you can just go into all kinds of turmoil and put yourself in a headspin with too much of the what ifs. And because there's no way to change the past, no way to undo or do anything different. It is what it is. So, my goodness, look at the time. Another half hour is passed by like vapor. So, hopefully nobody thinks this episode was too... I can't even stay on the hill. I wonder if I got too big of a drill. It's kind of moving me around on the hill. But like I'm saying, thank you for watching, for taking time to stop by here. Like I say, hopefully this wasn't too morose for anyone to hear. It's just an old man rambling here into the internet like several others. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing, and goodbye for now.